Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Overwatch 2 is finally coming. It's real, guys. It's real. Moments ago, the Play Overwatch channel released a video announcing that an Overwatch 2 alpha and beta is being released, with regular players getting the chance to play for themselves as early as April. So let's go through everything announced in the video and what it means for us and the game of Overwatch. First and most important thing you're going to want to know is, when is the beta and how do I get in? Well, this is the structure Blizzard have outlined. A closed alpha will be starting this week, they say, which will be for our pros and select Blizzard partners. Then a closed beta, which is where you can come in, will start in April, and that's when we will get to play the same thing that the pros will. Then additional public beta testing will come later in the year, which will contain new features, new maps, and new heroes. Along with their announcement video, Blizzard have created a link that you can click on that I will put in the video description that you can use to sign up for that first closed beta. Now, I don't know what the selection process is and who will get in and who doesn't, but bloody hell, I'd apply ASAP if you want in, and hopefully it's first come, first serve. So, before we cover what was said in the rest of the video, let's just break down this outline that Blizzard have given us on what to expect. The pros are going to be the first people to get their hands on the game, and there were only a few things that Blizzard 100% confirmed in the video. That the game will be 5v5, obviously, that there will be significant hero updates and reworks, and Sojourn will be added to the game. The pros will begin playing that build from this week, which also suggests that she will be the only new hero added to their build before Overwatch League starts. Will she define the Overwatch League meta? Who knows? I guess we'll find out. But what about during the season? Well, if we're to get new heroes later in the year, then there's a good chance that there will be at least 1 or 2 new heroes added to the Overwatch League season as we go, since the season usually runs till around September. For us, the players, it's likely the same deal. If you manage to get into the beta in April, it's likely you will get to play Sojourn, and depending on when these additional betas run, we might even get to try some other new heroes too. And yes, I'm saying betas because the way it was phrased suggests that there will be multiple beta periods that Blizzard will presumably start and stop to test various things in each build. Now, this makes sense for a closed beta because the point of it being closed is that it's presumably not fully ready yet. We might be used to something like what Valorant did with their game, which is to have a long, extended public beta where they just kind of let everyone play and tweak things on the fly. But that's not quite what will happen here. Now, that will come eventually, potentially by the end of the year, but for the one that's in April, it's probably just going to be done to stress test and mess around wildly with the game's balance, so expect it to be messy and potentially buggy, which is why it makes sense to put builds up and down whenever they add or tweak things. Now, this is what was confirmed. There were a few other things that were mentioned as definitely coming, but we were given no specific timeline on. This would be a push game mode, new maps, and a ping system. Now, the push mode we know about, and we've already seen the pros play on the new Overwatch 2 maps, so even if it wasn't explicitly stated in the video, I expect that the pros will have access to all those things during the Overwatch League season, and as a byproduct, us too if we get in April. But what about this ping system? This is definitely a new announcement because we saw no evidence of this during the Overwatch League show matches that we saw last year. So, will the pros have this and will we see them use it? If I had to guess, I would say yes, because why would they mention this feature explicitly if they weren't ready to go live with it? We all know that Blizzard is notoriously tight-lipped, so I don't think they would mention a ping system if it wasn't ready. They would just say something generic like, more features coming too. So again, if you get into that beta build in April or the ones that take place afterwards, then it's likely you will get to play Sojourn on new maps with the push mode and potentially with a ping system. For those unsure what a ping system is, in games like Apex and Valorant, you can draw attention to certain things that you see and share it with your teammates using an in-game voice prompt. Overwatch has a version of this where, for example, you can let people know what your ult charge is or tell them to cap the point. However, it's more advanced in those other games, and if you just look at an object and press the ping button, your character will usually give some very helpful information to your teammates via a voice line and a prompt on the screen. What will this look like in Overwatch? Well, as a basic thing, it would be nice to be able to ping that enemies are coming from a certain location. No more will you have to sit silent as a Genji dives you in the backline. you can now ping a diver in the backline and have that satisfaction of hearing the voice line trigger while your teammates promptly ignore you and you die painfully alone. It would also be cool if you can ping who is low health on the enemy team, for example, or maybe if you think the opponent has an ultimate ready, stuff like that. There's lots of ways this could go, so let's wait and see how detailed the system is. Either way, it should be a really nice addition, especially for people who can't or don't like to use the voice comms in-game. Now that concludes features, but there was another important part of this video, which was a brief explanation on what's going on behind the scenes in the dev team. Most significantly, they acknowledge that they have let us down and that they failed at one of their core values, delivering content on a regular basis. They go on to explain what we already know, that the reason that Overwatch 1 was not getting any content is that they had turned all of their attention to Overwatch 2, and that meant the live game suffered. And although they don't say it explicitly, again, it's clear that developing Overwatch 2 took way longer than they anticipated, which is why they've now made the decision they've made to split the PvE and PvP elements of the game as two separate things. Let me elaborate because this is quite important. Originally, Overwatch 2 was meant to be all the PvE updates that we were told about in BlizzCon all those years ago, but it was also meant to be 5v5, hero reworks, new maps, new heroes, and all that jazz. Now, it seems that the PvE side is taking too long, so they're giving us the PvP things now, and they'll just keep on working on the PvE and release that at a later date. So Overwatch 2 is actually just going to be 5v5, basically, at least to start with. Now, don't get me wrong, this is good news. It means we're getting new content finally, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But there's going to be a lot of you, I know, who are going to look at this and say, wait a minute, so what you're saying is you're going to give us PvP content now because the PvE took too long, so couldn't you have just done that this entire time? And honestly, yes. This is an area where Blizzard will just have to take the L. This is something the community has been screaming about for a while, that why bother making this big transition to Overwatch 2 when you could just update your live service game right now and give it all the content that you're hoarding for this new release. And the only explanation that there is that the dev team just screwed up. Now, there were a lot of mitigating circumstances that we should remember. COVID, first and foremost, and also the incessant meddling that we know Activision and Bobby Kotick have been doing. This was confirmed by a former producer in Overwatch, and of course, there was the lawsuits to boot, which couldn't have been a great work environment. But despite those allowances, the devs made a bizarre decision to make Overwatch 2 while killing Overwatch 1, rather than just keeping Overwatch 1 alive in the first place. But there's no use crying over that spilt milk, right? Like, we can be mad at the devs, and we should be, but what good is it going to do to beat that dead horse over and over? The best we can do now is hold them to account for delivering actually good content in Overwatch 2, now that they've made this inexplicable decision. And this is an area where they talk about in their video, though perhaps in not too much detail. There's a theme here, isn't there? Not too much detail. They're sorry, they messed up, and they hold their hands up. That's actually really good to hear. Now, do you believe them? Well, that's up to you. If you want my opinion, I'm skeptical. I've had the chance to speak to some of the dev team recently as individuals, and they all seem like smart, reasonable people who care about the game and they understand what the community sentiment is. And I've also worked in corporate environments where there's a lot of arms to the operation and some department or the other keeps coming in and screwing over the work of your department and making things more difficult. But that's just the norm for a AAA game. That's how it is. Other games have had the same challenges and made far better decisions, so there's really not much excuse for how badly they've managed this aspect of the game. But if the devs can learn from that and genuinely change path, then I'll be the happiest person around. I want to believe they have, and I'm inclined to do so, but whether they really learned a lesson or not, we'll have to wait and see. Which brings us to the next significant point they made, that they promised to deliver content consistently to Overwatch from now on. How much? Again, no clear number, but they did importantly say that they want to far exceed the historical rate of content release. Presumably, this means far exceeding what they were doing for Overwatch at launch, not what they've been doing for the last 2 years, because it's not hard to far exceed nothing. But in the before times of Overwatch, when the world was happy and COVID-free and we were all doe-eyed optimists, we were getting 3 heroes and 3 competitive maps a year, plus maps for additional arcade modes and new events and the like. So if we believe the devs, we can expect far more than that in the future. Does that mean we'll be getting like 5 new heroes a year? I'm not so sure. To be honest, I think that would be too much. We don't want that much of an overload of new heroes that can change the meta all the time and people have to learn all these new heroes constantly. But we might be getting more maps, more events, more game modes, or more quality of life features. They would also be counting new PvE missions when they say they're going to deliver a lot more content, because remember, from a dev side of things, everything added to the game is content, not just PvP heroes and balance updates. And very notably, we might be getting more cosmetics. Interestingly, the devs have mentioned nothing about the financial model of Overwatch 2 in this video. So what is their plan? If they've genuinely learned their lesson like they said, and they want to release content all the time now, then it can't just be that we pay for a one-time copy of Overwatch 2 and get it all. So there surely has to be a switch to free-to-play coming in some form, whether that's a battle pass or some new hybrid that Blizzard want to create, which means that we might be getting a lot more events and cosmetics, the kinds of things that are major sources of funding for free-to-play games. Now, I know free-to-play is a topic that divides a lot of people, but honestly, if we're going to get constant updates to Overwatch, then I say yes, please. I just want to see the game that I love thriving and competing with all the other games that are out there with millions of players, and I do think free-to-play is the best way to do it. And what it would also mean is that we finally get balance patches. Yes! The final thing to talk about in this video, and I know I've already gone on a lot guys, but actual news for Overwatch for once, Overwatch 2 is real, is that the devs promise, now prepare to roll your eyes, to communicate more. They mentioned that during and after every beta phase, they promise to communicate, I quote, much more frequently with us about their plans. In theory, that sounds fantastic. All that we could ask for. But I think this is one of those fool me twice situations. We've heard it many times before that the devs will communicate more, only for them to go dark. So, being blunt, I'm not buying anything until they prove otherwise. To be honest, even in this video, they barely gave us that much concrete information. There's no real details and no tangible commitments that we can hold them to. Just a lot of promises and general words that they will be better. Now, it's exciting that Overwatch 2 is finally coming, but in terms of an honest conversation with players, this is a start at best. Will we get developer updates again, or some sort of in-depth conversation about what's going on with Overwatch 2? I hope so. I think we better. I don't think forum posts are gonna cut it. Andy, the new community manager, has been slaving away answering all kinds of silly threads on the Battle.net forums, and while I think we all appreciate that and his work as an individual, it's not enough. We want to hear from the devs. We want news about what they're working on and what they're going to give us, and I think most importantly, we want real answers, not just canned PR statements about, we're excited to share things with you soon, later, in the near future, in the coming weeks and months, but we're not willing to talk about any of that right now. Like, I'm ready. I'm ready to open my heart and trust again, guys. But I'm also a little bit jaded and sick of being completely ignored for like 2 years. So I'm not buying anything from the devs until I see a tangible change. But from whatever direct interaction I've had with them, they do seem actually keen to do things differently from now on, which gives me a lot of hope. So tentatively, because that's how it always has to be with Activision Blizzard, tentatively, I'm hyped, guys. We're finally getting Overwatch 2 news, and we're being promised a bunch of updates and a game that will actually be supported and allowed to thrive. I think this is what all of us have been asking for as just the bare minimum, and I'm glad to hear the devs say that out loud finally. Now, whether it's executed well or not, we'll wait and see, and either way, we should be ready to hold them to account for their own words. But if they do deliver, then we might be looking at the golden age of Overwatch coming up, guys. But that's what I think. What do you guys think? Are you excited, delighted, or are you just not going to believe any of this until you see it? Which would be very fair. Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you've been wondering where I've been, well, I've been streaming on Twitch 5 days a week. So if you want educational content, discussions, or just a chat, that's where you'll find me, the link to which is in the video description. And I've been hosting a lot of fun events on my stream, like Streamer Secret Thrower Pugs, new Overwatch formats with people like Necros and ML7, and lots of fun challenges with ordinary players. So if you want to keep in touch with those, but don't have the time to watch it live on Twitch, then go check out my new channel, SVB-Side, where I'll be uploading highlights from the best pieces of content on my stream. This channel will mostly be podcasts, analysis content, and guides when there's something to make guides on, which hopefully will be soon. Also, I just want to give a huge shout out to my patrons who do the awesome job supporting me, and if you want to support me directly, then that is the best way of letting me make the content that I want to make without me having to worry about views and clicks. But that's it from me. I'll be back before you know it with another video. See you guys soon, and see you guys in the beta soon, I hope. Peace out.